April 30th is the return of Metal Mock Monday. But what is it? Well, Metal Mock Monday is a live radio show where we mock draft with the SleeperWire crew and listeners. There's metal music playing in the background. Sometimes I take requests. And we chat with you guys. We chat with the listeners. We take calls. It is just the best hangout on a Monday night in the off season. And mock drafting will help you win your league. The metal music is just a nice bonus. Season launch show for Metal Mock Monday is April 30th, right after the NFL draft. We'll have all the rookies in there, know where they're going. So join the SleeperWire channel on the SleeperBot app. Search for Facebook groups. You can find us at SleeperWire Fantasy Football Club. Join us on Facebook, or just go to SleeperWire.com. You'll get the details there in all those places when we start our show. Join us for the season launch of Metal Mock Monday, April 30th, only on the SleeperWire show.
Welcome, sleepers. It is Saturday, a special edition of Sleeper Wire. I am your host, Dirty Jobs, and with me today might be the hottest draft pick of the year. I have got with me the newest member of the Sleeper Wire crew. I have John Michael, the draft genius, with me. John Michael, how we doing today?
What's up? What's up? More than excited to be here, and I think this is going to be the best show of the off season.
Oh yeah, no, this is just the start, the beginning. I know I've talked with you for a couple hours the other night, and I mean, dude, the insights that you're bringing to this squad is amazing. You know all there is to know about Dynasty. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, Mike, look, I've just been doing this for a little while, and I say a little while, probably 7 years, and I broke into the industry, doing redraft like normally everybody does, your stereotypical league, which is the most common, and I found it that I was mastering it quickly, so I needed the next challenge, and I broke up into the, let's see, I think it was just strictly Dynasty. No, it was keepers at first. And then we did 3 keepers, in a home league, and that was easy for me to master because I was getting values in the 13th and 15th round, and they were becoming second round and third round picks the next season. So I just moved on to Dynasty, and I've been studying Dynasty and rookies. I have my own little process I go through where I rank everybody differently, based on opportunity, metrics, and all that. Stuff that nobody else in the industry is doing, constantly doing research and develop my own tools to where I'm right, way more than I'm wrong. And I think that's something that the fantasy community needs. They need answers, they need definite help, not just a little questionable answer. They need, boom, this is going to happen. And then more than likely it's going to happen.
That's it right there. I mean, it's all about those metrics. And I mean, if you follow the numbers, and I definitely am not a numbers guy. I'm more with the who's in the profit department, although I can't even kind of claim that. I just can more see the trends. I do a lot more of my calling with the gut, whereas like, say, Professor Chris and yourself follow those numbers. And I mean, the numbers guys, you can ask Chris how many championships he won. I think he won more than me and who's combined. So, I mean, you just got those number games are out there. And when you got a guy that can just see these numbers, and you're looking to be a coach, aren't you? Isn't that one of your desires, one of your dreams right there, is to become a football coach?
Oh, definitely. I coach ball right now, actually football, and I'm trying to get into the coaching business of the college level. That's I think that's the most challenging level. I even think it's more challenging than the NFL, because the NFL, you could potentially keep somebody, your best player, forever. College is just 4 years, 5 years at the max. So I want to reach that level and master that level. That's in big plans to come. And I'm hitting it hard right now. I'm coming through hard. So watch out.
That's what we like to hear. That's why we're so excited to get this guy on board. We're going to be answering some questions today. We're also going to be taking live calls the whole entire time.
Yeah.
So make sure you give us a call. We're at 909-713-7030. Obviously, those questions will have the priority.
We already had a call, Dirty Jobs. But you guys were so into the introduction, I didn't want to interrupt. But we did already have a call. So caller, call back. Actually, we can call the caller back if you want. Do you want to call the caller back?
We should. I mean, that's what we do, Steve.
That is our thing, right? We're the only podcast that will call you back.
This is the only callback show that goes on for as long as it's going on.
Let's try to call him. Let's try to call him back.
This is the answer everyone needs. This is what everybody's looking for. So hit that man up that called or the lady.
Let's see.
And let's get it.
Hello. Hi. Did you just call the SleeperBot podcast? Hey, we wanted to get back to you because we couldn't get your call.
No worries.
What's happening, man? How we doing? What's your name? Where are you from?
Pretty good. I'm Sean from Washington.
Oh, nice. Excellent. What you got, bud?
Well, I was calling about the wide receiver questions that I put up with Nelson Aguilar. Questionable with Mike Wallace's arrival as a wide receiver 3. For a Dynasty startup.
The one that Prophet Hoos and I commented on?
Yeah.
Your team? Who are who are the receivers left that you have? Because we'll dish this out right now. I'm going to fix you. What's up?
Oh, yeah. So I have on my team right now, I have Robert Woods and Randall Cobb. And then out of the names that I see that are left is names like Kelvin Benjamin, Rashad Matthews, Jordan Matthews, and Nelson Aguilar. And I think Cam Meredith is still in there, but I'm not going to.
Has any runs happened? Has any running back or wide receiver runs happened recently?
Oh yeah. So for the
give me the last 2 runs.
All right, give me 1 second. Let me pull it up here. Get back to my car.
Because I'm just gonna give you a little insight while you're doing that. The runs that tend to happen, you see a trend happen for just so long, but that trend can't go on for the whole draft. Eventually it has to stop and another run starts. So you let a run happen and then you get the best value you can get at that point. Maybe hit 2 picks back to back. What slot do you pick?
I am the odds. I'm the 16th pick in evens. I'm the 5th pick. And my next pick is 9-16.
So it's a 16-team league.
It's a 20 team.
Oh wow! Okay, that's awesome. Yeah. Running back wise, whenever you get your board back up, list me the running backs and the wide receivers, and I'll help you real quick. We'll get you settled.
All right. So so right now it looks like they're on a run for defensive players.
Okay.
For the IDP side, and so the last couple of picks have been for offense has been Chris Carson, Aaron Jones, Alan Hearns, Randall Cobb, Isaiah Crowell, and that's about the rest of the offense.
Is Alex Collins there?
He's been gone.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, he went in the 5th round.
And this is 1.5 PPR. Is that just for tight ends?
Yeah, that's just for the tight ends.
Okay. Tariq Cohen, is he going?
Yeah, he went right above him.
Okay. I would lean towards Kelvin Benjamin because he's going to be the target hog in Buffalo. Any quarterback that comes in, rookie or if it's A.J. McCarron, is going to lock on to the first receiver. If you want more of a riskier pick with way more upside, I'd go Jordan Matthews, just because we've seen receivers like this that go to the Patriots, blow up instantly, and they become top 15 wide receivers. But if you think that you could get, I'm sorry.
He's just so injury prone, though.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's why it's a high risk, high reward type of pick. But if you think, some of those receivers are going to fall to you next round, I would look at whoever the top 10 running backs are. If there's a Chris Thompson still there, is there a Chris Thompson?
He's been gone too, yeah.
Okay, he's been going. Can you draft rookies?
My rookie draft is going to be after the pick, and so I got the 103. So I'm looking at either like Nick Chubb or Darius Juice, really. So I'm not for my 103 rookie pick.
Yeah, I would. In this case, I would go Kelvin Benjamin if you want a solid starter. I think he can be a week in, week out starter. We've seen what he can do definitely in Carolina. It's just the quarterback question and the stability. If you want a definite producer this year, if Pierre Garçon is on the board, I'd go him. I know it's Dynasty, but you could get 2 good years out of him. If Marvin Jones is there, you go him. I know it's a 20-team league, so it's kind of stretched out. But if worse comes to worse, go D.D. Westbrook. I think he can be definitely number 1 in Jacksonville.
Yeah. So I think he's gonna take over there. Him and Keelan Cole are definitely gonna take over there.
Definitely. But another guy who people are slipping on, this is going to be in the sleeper portion that I plan on talking about later on in the show. I'm going to give you a little sneak peek since you're the first caller. Marquise Lee. He's still the number 1 wide receiver there. He's the number 1 target. He's not going till late in drafts. So you can steal him big time, 2 rounds. Unless somebody in your leagues listens to this right now, you better be careful. But that's it. I'd go, you could go with the double up strategy. You could go DD.
Hold on. Lee. I think he's still there.
Yeah, so if you want to make that Kelvin Benjamin pick right here, how many picks until your next pick after this one?
Well, so after I picked 916, I got the short way to 1005, so that'd be 1, 2, 3.
So 5.
So it'd be like 20 picks, right? Yeah.
So it'd be.
I mean, I could probably. So do you think what's your take on Kenneth Dixon?
Kenneth Dixon's a huge risk. I'm from Louisiana originally, so I've seen all of Kenneth Dixon's college games, and he performs well. It's just the fact that he can stay on the field. Right now, with your team currently, I would go Jordan Matthews over Kenneth Dixon. You could get Kenneth Dixon in the late rounds, even in a 20-team pick, I think. I would go currently with you right now. I would go Kelvin Benjamin and then Marquise Lee or Jordan Matthews the next pick. Solidify your wide receiver core since it's PPR. And if you do see great running back value, I would not hesitate to call back at all. I think we could help you.
So I'm thinking. So I see James White still on the board as well.
The only Patriots running back. I don't want James White because of this. They re-signed Burkhead, which Belichick never really re-signs backs to 3-year deals. So I feel like he's going to use Burkhead a lot more than he did in the previous year. You could definitely go and take a shot on Jeremy Hill in one of the last rounds if you want a share of the Patriots pie. That's the cheapest, and the cheapest is usually the best. The cheapest last year was actually Deion Lewis, and I think that is definitely a trend to follow because, you have Brandon Bolden who comes out of the woodwork at random times and dominates, but LeGarrette Blount one year was the cheapest. He was picked up off the leftovers from the Steelers whenever the Patriots got him. So I'd go with that. If Theo Riddick is still on the board, however, you could definitely go him. That's somebody who I would look at. He might be going by now in the 20 team.
Yeah, still up there.
Yeah, I would go either Riddick the only thing that hurts them is if they bring in a Sony Michel, which I think the Lions do draft a running back. And I'm hearing rumblings that they're trying to trade Amir Abdullah. So I would definitely look at him next pick. But this pick has to be Kelvin Benjamin. More I'm thinking about it because you have a top receiver in the offense. He's the best weapon they have. So it has to be Kelvin Benjamin.
Right, yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, good. I'll let you know how it all works out.
Awesome. Well, I mean, you can't argue with the logic behind it. I mean, Kelvin Benjamin, he's got a good opportunity there. I agree. Target monster. That's going to be a good pick.
Yeah, he just stay healthy.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's the tough part.
Hit Kelvin Benjamin and then Marquise Lee next, and that'll solidify your wide receivers unless you want to go Theo over Lee. But that's it, man. Call back if you have any more questions. Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Thanks. Good luck, man.
We got a little action in the chat room here on the Mixler. We got the RB guy, new listener. He was asking about Blunt during that call. He said, why wouldn't he grab Blunt? Any thoughts on him with the Lions? They just signed him.
Mike, you want to take this one to start off?
The thing I like about Blunt is that he's a touchdown threat, but the things that I don't like about Blunt is just the usage. He just doesn't get the game-to-game usage. I think that you're going to see the Lions go with, like, Riddick on the 1-2 downs, and I think you'll see Blunt on short yardage potential and goal line. So, for me, I would rather have a Riddick there because he's going to be your pass-catching back. I mean, he's a Boulder. He's a Super Bowl champion, apparently. And so I do like Blunt, but I feel like there's a lot better productivity out there than him.
And Blunt doesn't catch passes. He's more of a standard league type of guy where you have to rely on those touchdowns. And, you're going to hear LeGarrette Blunt touchdown probably 8 times this season. I think I have him projected for 7 touchdowns, but I might move it to 8 depending on if they bring anybody because he's the goal line option. That's why they brought him in. Amir Abdullah can't get it in on the goal line, which it's risky, but Blunt can be a good pick. I don't like relying on older guys to get me through on Dynasty. If I'm taking a risk on a running back, it's going to be a younger guy who I can see his opportunity pan out over the next couple years.
Absolutely.
All right, we got another question coming in from Wilson27. He wants to know. Hang on, I'm bringing it up here. He wants to, a couple things, actually. Do you think the Cowboys will draft wide receiver this year, first-round wide receiver with the loss of Dez? What do you think the Cowboys are going to do in the draft?
They will definitely draft a wide receiver. I'd put money on it because if you go back and look at all their workouts, okay, all of their each team gets 30, 32 workouts for wide receiver, not just for wide receivers, but for all positions. Most of their workouts are wide receivers. They did Cortland Sutton, Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, James Washington, Michael Gallup. I think they even did Equinemius St. Brown and Christian Kirk. They might have even done Traquan Smith. I didn't read that far into it, but that's just 7 to 9 of the top wide receivers in this class. They are 100% going to go wide receiver. Would not surprise me at all. It'd be a good prop bet if you do prop bets on, players being picked in certain rounds. You can definitely bet on the Cowboys taking a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds because they have to. They have Allen Hurns there. They have Cole Beasley and Ryan Switcher to occupy the slot. Allen Hurns is going to be a bigger Y. Kind of stretch the field, play that intermediate routes in the 15 yards from the line of scrimmage area. And he's shown that he could be injury prone. I don't believe in the term injury prone, but he's shown that he could get more frequent injuries in the past 2 years. If you look at his first 2 years, he was awesome. He was, I think, around 800 yards the first 2 years, and he had great touchdown production. Then he got hurt, and then he got superseded by Allen Robinson, emerging to be a great wide receiver. I think he's one of the great values right now in all drafts. But then last year, D.D. Westbrook showed, look, y'all took a very risky pick on me because we know D.D. was risky coming out of the draft. And he showed, look, I'm the shit, you know. You gotta ride with me. I'm gonna come through in the hard situations. And then Keelan Cole, man, I loved him. He was one of the ones I hit on. I got him at the end of every draft, and he panned out perfectly. Last rookie pick, last normal pick in any draft. So I think they used them two in Jacksonville, and then Hearns can now prove himself again with the Cowboys at the Y position. The only thing they need is the X factor, which was Dez, coincidentally his nickname. But I think the X factor that they draft will be James Washington, and I think that Courtland Sutton would be a great fit there too, as well.
All right, then this kind of actually goes back on what you were just talking about in terms of drafting rookies. This is Wilson again. He says, since we had such a great group of young, talented rookies last season, how will this year's fantasy draft impact your thought on taking a rookie player early or in the mid-round? So I think he's saying because, you saw so many rookie talents pop last year, are you more likely to pick rookies in your fantasy draft this year, or is it really a case-by-case basis?
Mike, you take this one from a redraft perspective, and I'll look at it as a dynasty perspective.
I like it as a case-by-case basis. I mean, you've got to really see the guy at the combine and things like that. I mean, he's got to pass the eye test. You got to see how it's going to translate to the NFL. I mean, like last year, we knew people like Kareem Hunt were going to come out and they were going to go beast mode right out the gate. I mean, speculation, of course, but you can just see it. I think that this year actually has a lot less razzle-dazzle than last year did, because last year just had such a mean slate at every position, maybe less so in the wide receiver tight end department. But, I mean, Deshaun Watson, I mean, you just go on for days about the rookies that came out last year.
Right. So,
but for me, I don't really feel like this is the year for that. Are there guys that you want to draft? Absolutely. But that's in a redraft setting. I mean, in a redraft setting, I can say like Saquon Barkley, maybe a couple quarterbacks are out there worth drafting, but I really don't see the strength that was there last year.
What position has the most razzle-dazzle for you this year, Dirty Jobs?
Quarterback, by 1,000%.
Yeah, okay, I figured. All right.
From the other side of things, I would definitely, touching on redraft, what Mike just said, I would hit Nick Chubb, Sony Michel towards the 9th round if possible, depending on fit. Darius Geis as well. And then wide receiver side, James Washington, Courtland Sutton, Calvin Ridley will all be potential starters for any team they go to, even if it's the Saints. Another guy that's very moving up draft boards, depending on where he goes in the NFL drafts. DJ Moore. DJ Moore could be a great value, and I think he can be, have an Odell type of season. Odell came out and dominated. I think DJ Moore could do the same. Dynasty's perspective, if you're doing a redraft, not a redraft, but a dynasty format where you're doing a startup, I think, 7th round, 6th round is where you take some of those hot receivers and hot rookies. Barkley is, I would still take, DeAndre, Le'Veon, Gurley, David Johnson, Michael Thomas, Odell, all of those before Barkley, because we're getting so hung up on Barkley's talent, but he hasn't even stepped on an NFL field yet. And that's the big issue that nobody thinks about. He hasn't stepped on the NFL field, and we've seen players of his caliber go to the NFL and then fizzle out. So that's something to keep in mind before wasting that number 1 overall pick on him in a startup league or something. I totally think he's worth the 101 in all rookie drafts.
I agree with that 100%. Definitely worth the 101 in a rookie draft, but I am a bit more hesitant. There is just a host of players that I'm more excited about drafting ahead of him in a redraft league.
Same.
Do you guys want to take this question from SleeperBot?
Sure.
This was on the post that we put up. It's Dr. Detroit. I don't know if you'd seen this one yet. So Dr. Detroit's in a 12-team league with 9 keepers and a 16-player roster. If you guys probably pop up SleeperBot and read through this too, but I'll read it for the audience. Heavy emphasis on rookie running backs in the draft. What are your 9 from this list? 1 point PPR, 6 points, pass, run, catch, touchdown. Thanks, Leo, new to the show. Looking forward to the show. Sorry. So he gave us a list here. He wants 9 from this list. So he's got Wentz, Mariota, Bell, Howard, Kamara, Collins, Cohen, Carson, Thielen, Goodwin, Davis, Parker, Galladay, Fuller, and then his 9 right now are Bell, Kamara, Howard. Okay, so he tells you who he wants or who he's got. He's just kind of, this is very much a mail sack question. He wants a little encouragement that he's got the right ones and maybe a little thought on some of the ones you might disagree with. So for these 9 players that he's got, do you like them? And who would you change out?
Can you tag me in it so I could open it on my computer and read them?
Absolutely. I will right now.
So looking at it, I mean, I really like Wentz. I don't like Mariota as much. I mean, it doesn't look like we got a 2-quarterback league. Mariota just, I don't know. He doesn't have the factor that I like to see in a quarterback. That team seems to be going on a slump as opposed to going up. I feel like I'd take Wentz right there and be perfectly happy with subbing him out on his bye week, no matter what. And then I'm looking at this and I'm like, the running backs, I think I like Bell for sure. I mean, I don't think I like Bell. I think I love Bell. We got Kamara, Cohen, and Carson. Gosh, I like Collins. I think, if you're so heavy on the running backs, I think you're going to be fine with most of the running backs you have on your team. So with me, I think you're going to probably look at limiting out on the wide receiver area. And to me, I like Thielen and Goodwin, but I really don't think I like Parker, Galladay, Fuller. Galladay a little bit. I think he's got a decent future, but man, you just got so many mouths to feed up there already. So for me, I think I could knock out Davis, Parker, Fuller, and Mariota off this list to give you your 9. That's what I would do.
Okay, I'm assuming this is just a redraft keeper league.
That's what I'm looking at too. I was just thinking that I think it's every year he gets keepers, and then back. Yeah,
I would definitely keep Wentz. I think he's the best quarterback in the NFL right now, fantasy wise. I even think he's better than Rodgers in a fantasy perspective. I think Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback of all time. That's a whole different conversation for a whole different show. For this specific case, I would definitely go Wentz because Mariota's going to fall in drafts based on what you did last year with him, and definitely could have the same exact quarterback tandem, getting him even later than you got him last year. So then I would go Bell, which is Le'Veon Bell, Alvin Kamara, and Tariq Cohen. So that's 4 right there. You got 9. I would hit Thielen and Will Fuller. And I'm guessing that's Corey Davis. I'm not sure if that's Corey Davis, but if it is Corey Davis, then definitely him. So then we're at 7? 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Keep Collins. Alex Collins is actually... Let's see. I'll tell you right now where I have him in the rankings because Alex Collins is big time for me. And I think what he did last year proved that he can be, an excellent running back. I have him as my running back 15, so he's a solid RB2, most definitely. And you're getting that. You're going to lock up. You can start Bell and Kamara, at your running backs, and then Collins and Cohen at your flex, and you have potentially 4 starters for their respective teams. I think Corey Davis takes the jump this year. The new coach over there, Matt LaFleur, was the Rams offensive coordinator. He's the offensive coordinator for the Titans. They pass a lot, with the Rams. Now it's short intermediate passes because Jared Goff cannot throw down the field no matter what anybody tells me. Mariota is kind of the same way. We see him on those rollout passes and stuff, and I think Corey Davis could fit to that mold easily of his number 1 wide receiver, especially with this whole offseason to go. I would not keep Goodwin because they also have the emergence of Trent Taylor, which is a very, very late-round sleeper, deep of sleepers, who can emerge as a great slot guy over there. And then they have Pierre Garçon coming back, we're forgetting what he did the year before last. This dude was awesome. So I would let go of Goodwin, let go of Galladay, because I don't think that he takes the step there either. I'm also hearing rumblings that Dez could go to the Lions. Don't know if that's valid or not, just maybe a little Twitter rumor, but that's on that. And then Devante Parker I would not keep at all, because I'm a Devante Parker truther, but you have way better value in the other picks you're keeping. So to wrap it up, Wentz, Bell, Alvin Kamara, Alex Collins, Tariq Cohen, Adam Thielen, Corey Davis, Will Fuller, and then if I'm going one more, it's Jordan Howard if you're on the fence. And that's it. That's all.
Can I bug you about Parker? Because I didn't like Parker last year. We had some people that did, some people that didn't. But I just looked at the on-field product he was putting out, and he didn't look like he was focused or cared to be playing football at times. Did you notice that too?
Jay Cutler was his quarterback.
Yeah, but you can't blame it.
That's my argument for that.
Really?
Yeah, dude, have you ever seen Jay Cutler? He smokes and says, I don't give a shit about nothing. It's hard to get excited about being on that guy's team, I think.
I like Jay Cutler, from a personal perspective of him as a player. I think he's done great things in Chicago that people overlook. He's actually their best quarterback of all time, really, looking at his gameplay on the field. Not the legacy. The whole legacy of a Bears quarterback is way more in depth, but best quarterback that I think they've had recently is definitely Cutler, and he's all that they've known for a while. So him going to Miami, he still had kind of the same offense being run, but they brought him in just to get him through the season, not to become a playoff team. I think they wanted to see more of what they had on their whole roster. Everybody's saying the Dolphins are tanking this year. I think they tanked last year, and they pulled a couple of upsets, but they tanked last year and used that to determine, hey, look, we need to rebuild fast. So they're rebuilding this year fast. Don't be surprised if they don't go Baker Mayfield in the first. But Devante Parker, getting back on him, in 2016 – he only started 8 games, I think, and he went 744 yards and 4 touchdowns. That was about 13, give or take, a couple yards per reception, which is pretty good. He only did that on 56 catches. And then this past year he had 57 catches, which is one more, and he started 12 games. So his target share went down a lot this year. He had 670 yards and 1 touchdown. Jay Cutler doesn't score touchdowns. We saw that with, he had Brandon Marshall at probably the peak of Brandon Marshall's career, and Alshon Jeffrey, 2 studs, 2 wide receiver ones. But the inconsistency in touchdowns was there with them too. So I think that Parker is worth a late round pick, but I'm still on the Devante Parker train. I'm probably driving it by myself now, which is okay. But I think he's worth the risk still, because we know it's there. And if you could get him for free, whether it's at the very end of a draft, or even if you could sell high on him to somebody like me, to somebody who's believing in him still, sell high if you can, Potentially we'll have a trade value thing for you guys. Over here at SleeperWire, we'll offer that to our fans, and that might help you make a Parker trade, but that's more to come in future endeavors. Right now, I would focus on Albert Wilson in that Miami Dolphins wide receiver set, or even Kenny Stills. Kenny Stills is a good value right now too. But that's all I have to say on Parker. Parker is he holds close to my heart.
All right, I won't pick on him anymore. We got another question from the Mixler chat. The RB guy is still listening. He says, so straight up Dynasty question. Everyone keeps saying Barkley is the number 1 pick, no matter what. If Cleveland – wait, I'm sorry. There's no pronunciation in this. Let me try that again. Everyone is saying Barkley is the number 1 pick, no matter what. If Cleveland does draft him and Tampa Bay gets Geis, who do you take? So Barkley goes to Cleveland, Geis goes to Tampa Bay. Who are you drafting for Dynasty?
Look, Barkley, the worst fit for him on an NFL team is the Cleveland Browns. Here's why. Okay. Get ready for an earful. Just a heads up. Barkley is bad for Cleveland, and Cleveland is bad for Saquon Barkley. Everybody's forgetting Joe Thomas is gone. No one knows the impact that he had on that team. He was the best offensive lineman in the league forever, actually. Name me a better one, and I'll argue it till you're blue in the face trying to argue back because I'm winning. He isn't there. The left tackle is a centerpiece of an offensive line for a reason. It protects the blind side of a quarterback, and teams likely run to the left more than they do right, believe it or not. Once you lose a player like that, the key player of your offense, what happens is I'm sorry. What happens is the whole line has to shift. So you're going to have Bentonio having to play probably the left side and kind of helping whatever left tackle they bring in, because it's either going to be a rookie or it's going to be a career backup who has to outshine the others. Everybody has to switch to the side, and it changes all the responsibilities of the whole line. So their line play will probably be a mess. I'm not saying that's the most definite answer, but I do think that it will be a mess. They also have Duke Johnson Jr. there and Carlos Hyde. They brought in Carlos Hyde for a reason. He's not just a placeholder. Why would you pay a running back however much you paid him that you could have paid another position? If you were dead set on drafting Saquon Barkley first overall. I don't think Saquon Barkley is the first pick. I don't even think he goes to the Browns. But if he does, he's going to lose passing downs to Duke Johnson Jr. because Hugh Jackson has stated Duke Johnson Jr. can be their future. They're working out a contract extension for him as we speak. It's reported to be a 4 or 5 year deal, so that shows major commitment. Carlos Hyde will get the goal line work because they're not just going to cut him. They have to play him this year. They brought him in. He's going to take some carries away. He's not just going to be Mike Gillis lead out of the offense because Hugh Jackson is not Bill Belichick, no matter what anybody tells me. And the quarterback transition is happening. They brought in Tyrod Taylor, which, hey, I love Tyrod Taylor. I could talk about him for 3 hours. Tyrod is my guy. But he's not a game-changing quarterback for the Browns. He's not going to revive the Browns into a playoff team. I think that they bring in Josh Allen first pick overall, and they do that for specific reasons I'll get on later because we'll have some fun with that. But I think the whole Barkley to Cleveland thing is a bad pick, and I think he will struggle. A lot of people are blinded because this is the best talent we've seen forever, talent-wise, coming out of the draft. People are forgetting Nick Chubb was actually Saquon Barkley before Saquon Barkley existed. You look at Nick Chubb's freshman year, he hit, let's see, I want to say 1,500 yards his freshman year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was something like that.
It was 219 carries for 1,547 yards and 14 touchdowns, okay? So you have him he's matched Saquon Barkley. He matched him at the combine. He ran a little bit slower of 40, and he's a little bit bigger than Barkley. But he matched Barkley's reps. Barkley has never hit 1,500 yards in a season. He's more versatile than Chubb. I'll give him that. But Chubb is a value who you can get later, later in your drafts. So I do think Barkley to the Browns is a bad pick, and if that does happen, I would sell as high as you can. Get one of those top 5 dynasty picks, the DeAndre Hopkins, Todd Gurley, Antonio Brown, who I do think is another Jerry Rice, can play until 36, 37 years old. You could also get Zeke Elliott. I'd rather Zeke Elliott over Saquon Barkley. And the 5th one is a toss-up. I'm going back between so many guys for my 5th overall dynasty pick. Right now I have it as Le'Veon Bell, but I'm also a lot higher on Dalvin Cook than all other people are. I do think Dalvin Cook is going to be a generational running back, and that's a hot take right there. I know, sue me, but like that's Dalvin what happens.
Cook a lot too. I think he's way underrated, and I like it. I think it'll be great to draft him next year if he stays underrated.
Oh, definitely. And then David Johnson and Alvin Kamara are the next few people that people put in the top 5. But Alvin Kamara is not going to be what he was last year. I'm putting money on that right now. He just can't. He can't. He was so efficient with his carries. Historically, it's impossible to be that efficient. That'd be like Juju doing what he did last year and being better than Antonio Brown this year. It's a slim possibility. Yeah, but it won't happen. The percentage of it is so unlikely. Then you have David Johnson, who's coming off an injury, had one good year. I loved him. I hit on him 2 years ago. That's my guy, David Johnson. But I don't think he's going to last as long as the other people in the top 5. I don't think he'll last as long as Bell, Gurley, Zeke, Dalvin, even Kareem Hunt.
Well, I mean, that team has to use him so much more. I mean, yes, you got Larry Fitzgerald, and I mean, who knows what's going to be coming into the quarterback situation when it all pans out, I feel you. I think you're right. I think David Johnson's just going to have that, just the crazy usage that he was used to in that first season. I mean, that's what makes him great, granted, but it also shortens his shelf life quite a bit.
100% agree. So, what was the exact question? I'm sorry, I got kind of sidetracked. I'm very passionate about Barkley.
The Saquon Barkley. Yeah, I knew it was coming. Steve?
What was the question? Well, I think the question was Barkley going and being to the Browns, and then Darius Guice going to the Buccaneers. I don't think Guice is even the value there because the Buccaneers have more problems, I think, than running back. Stemming from Jameis Winston, I don't believe him to be that good of a quarterback. But I would actually go Nick Chubb or Sony Michel. I think Sony Michel is a complete back. He's being very overlooked. I think he can do everything Barkley can do, except Barkley's more athletic. Sony Michel definitely showed what he could do against Oklahoma. I don't know if anybody watched that game, but he proved that he can be an asset to any team. And he did this while splitting time with Nick Chubb. So I'd go one of them. Call me a biased Georgia fan, but I think that they'll be very successful. And we've seen Georgia running backs very successful in the NFL, going back all the way to Noshawn Marino and going back before that, Herschel Walker. So, and there's way more than those two that I named. That's just the ones that might ring a bell to the people who've been watching the sport for a while. Guice is a good value. Right now, my rankings for running backs are Barkley, Chubb, Michel, Guice, Royce Freeman, Rashad Penny. Let's see who else. Kalen Ballage, Naheem Hines, and Kerryon Johnson. There might be one that I left out, but that's the bulk of it. So I hope that answers your question. If not, elaborate more and we'll touch on it again. That's it.
There's a lot of those names in there that I'm excited to. I hope that they make it just for fantasy name purposes.
Definitely.
Chubb. Come on. The carry-on guy. I can make a name with that.
I mean, even Barkley. You could Saquon could be, somebody's going to come up with that. You could kind of bend that a certain way. Sony Michel, something with Sony. Even Penny, Rashad Penny. That's a Rashad Penny and the Freemans. Something like that with Rashad
right.
Penny and Royce Freeman.
Penny, yeah. The Penny and the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
You guys got the Mixer chat going today. RB guy saying Michelle is his favorite RB in the draft. You got the Quick guy, who I think was in our mock draft last week. He's got an insight. He says the Browns, reports say the Browns didn't talk to any top RB prospects this year, so I don't think any names are going there.
They didn't talk to any, I guess, top guys, as in Darius Guice and Barkley, but they spoke to an unnamed Georgia back, which can only be Sony Michel or Nick Chubb. So they spoke to them, and I think they spoke to Royce Freeman as well and Rashad Penny, but those are just reports. Nobody knows really unless they're inside the Browns organization. See, I got to be careful in what I say on here because the RB guy is in my draft I'm doing right now, and it's a live draft dynasty, so I can't give away all my secrets. So while we're on this, while we're on the specific subject of rookie running backs, I'm gonna touch on Ronald Jones because he's very controversial and he's popped in my top 7 rookie running backs, here and there, but I always find something that concerns me about him. I think Ronald Jones is possibly the next Jamal Charles. And a lot of people are saying, well, yeah, Ronald Jones hasn't caught a lot of passes, at USC. That's because USC doesn't really pass to the running backs. And then if you want to argue that with me, fine. That's fine. I'll go back to Jamal Charles. Jamal Charles only caught 20 balls per season at Texas. That's it.
Right.
Which, you look at Jamal Charles with the Chiefs, what was he doing? What was the whole thing for fantasy with him? He was catching passes. This guy, he was, Kansas City, I think he caught at least 40 passes 4 seasons with Kansas City, one of them being 35 passes. So he went like 40, 45, 35. He even went as far as catching 70 passes in his best year with Kansas City in the receiving department. I think he's very much similar to Jamal Charles. Now, is he Jamal Charles? We have no idea. We're forgetting that none of these rookies have put on pads on an NFL field. A lot of their talents don't translate to the field because it's such more of an up-tempo, you can't make any mistakes or you get bitten by the snake type of game. And that's the whole defense with Ronald Jones. He's really an unknown. The guy's coming off an injury, and he said, look, I'm going to do what I can, and I'm going to run at my pro day. And he probably hurt his stock for that. I'm hoping he goes to the Raiders in the second round. That's my NFL team of choice, the Raiders. Diehard fan since probably Jamarcus Russell, Darren McFadden type of days. Justin Fargas, running backs. That's a big time fantasy sleeper back then. So that's my wishes for him is that Ronald Jones goes there, and because we have Marshawn Lynch, who we have for a year, so we have a year ticket. We signed Doug Martin. We have DeAndre Washington there. We have Jalen Richard, who went right down the road from me at Tulane. I think he can be a very transitional running back right there, and we could use DeAndre Washington and Jalen Richard and Doug Martin once Lynch leaves and be healthy for another year. The top college prospects right now, I'm bringing up my Devy rankings, for all the people in Devy leagues. I have Cam Akers as my running back 1, Jonathan Taylor, who we saw be an amazing freshman for Wisconsin. He at one point he was in the Heisman race as a freshman. That's unheard of. DeAndre Swift is another one from Georgia. Bryce Love from Stanford. J.K. Dobbins from Ohio State. Myles Gaskin from Washington. And Najee Harris from Alabama. Clemson even has a guy, can't think of his name right now, but my point is running backs are easy to acquire in drafts. And in rookie drafts, they always go number 1, but look, Leonard Fournette was the number 1 pick last year. Leonard Fournette has injury risk, so how long are you going to have him? That's the big question, I guess, whenever you're talking about Leonard Fournette. He was the number 1 running back taken. I got Joe Mixon in the 4th pick, I think. So I think that's of greater value than Fournette being first overall, because you see the late rookie running backs, Alvin Kamara. He went to his best fit was the Saints, and he went to the Saints. That's what they do. They get their best players in the best fits. And you can do that in almost every draft. So Ronald Jones could be a big risk, but if you get him in round 3 of your rookie draft or mid-round 2 even, I'd pull the plug on him. Hyping up Jonathan Taylor, since I brought him up earlier. This is a freshman, keep in mind. He started 8 games. He averaged 152 yards per game. He averaged 7.2 yards per carry. 12 touchdowns, only 4 fumbles, which can be fixed. We all know fumbles can be fixed. This guy hit 1,368 yards in 8 games. That's talent right there. Don't be surprised if they're not talking him as the first-round pick whenever he comes out of the draft. First overall pick, I'm sorry. But that's all I really got to say on rookie running backs right now. Top 5 running backs, I think, to have in a rookie draft or in Dynasty, if you're doing your rookie drafts, are Saquon Barkley, Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, Darius Geis, and Rashad Penny. Those are my top 5. Penny and Royce Freeman are going back and forth. Late second round, possibly even early third. I've only done 3 rookie drafts so far, so I'm not too sure where he's going in the public eye. Naheem Hines is an amazing value, and if he goes to the right team, he can be a Theo Riddick type of guy. He can be an Alvin Kamara type of receiver for a team. Jalen Samuels is another guy from NC State, and I think this guy will mold. He's a generational player in the sense that he will mold teams to create a new position on the football field. This guy plays wildcat quarterback, running back, slot, X, Y receiver. You could line this dude up at tight end, I'd bet. Fullback, running back, any position except O-line, he can play. If he goes to the Patriots, get this guy in late in your drafts, and you will not be sorry, especially if it's a dynasty. I want this guy for the rest of his career. If he's a player who can define another position and define a position to where it's a new position in football, there's only one person who can play it at the moment, and that's Jalen Samuels. That's rare.
You get things like that, and I mean, it just drives defensive coordinators nuts for the first 100%. Year, maybe 2 years. I mean, they just cannot adapt to different style. I mean, eventually you catch up with tape, but it takes a minute.
You can't game plan for him.
Exactly.
They said Curtis Samuel was the same last year. He versatile, play everywhere, 5'11", 200 pounds. Which, hey, look, Curtis Samuels. I don't know where you were this past year. Coincidentally, y'all got the same name. You might be related. I don't know. But this guy was 5'11", 200 pounds. Jalen Samuels is 5'11", 228 pounds. This guy wore the number 1 on his chest, and he played tight end. Okay, this guy was a pretty good tight end. Okay, he caught what was it? I'm trying to find his stats. I had it written down somewheres, but he caught, I think, 76 passes this year as a tight end for 597 yards, 4 touchdowns. You want to hear his rushing stats? The best rushing stats by a tight end ever? 77 carries, 403 yards, and 12 touchdowns.
Jeez.
12 touchdowns. This guy was accountable for 16 touchdowns. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to mention he also returns kickoffs. 9 kickoff returns for 213 touchdowns, with his longest being 58. 213 yards. I'm sorry, not touchdowns. That'd be insane. He also passed, okay? His passer rating combined for 2 years is about 66%. He's thrown 3 passes, completed 2 out of the 3. Has about 84 yards, I want to say, give or take. Don't quote me on that, but he scored a touchdown. His rating in the 2016 on ESPN, his passer rating is 925.6.
Oh, wow.
Which is, it's not legit because he doesn't have the reps, but his passer rating this past year was 155, and I think he can definitely be that good of an asset to any team. That just proves my point. People say stats or whatever. Stats are just numbers. I just proved that he can be versatile in 4 areas of the game. So what you got against the argument against him? Nobody has anything. This guy has thrown 1 passing touchdown. Career-wise, he's scored 28 touchdowns, I think, on the ground, and he's a tight end. Receiving touchdown, he scored 19 touchdowns in the air. And, I mean, the dude's a monster. He accounted for 96 points this year, 96 points his sophomore year, 78 points his junior year. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say about him. I just want to include that in for all the Dynasty and rookie lovers.
It sounds like a beast of a dude. What's up, Steve?
I got a tight end question from the quick guy on the Mixler chat. He's got biggest impact rookie tight end. We got actually, no, I'm sorry. I think these guys are already in the league. Yeah, these guys are already in the league. So we've got Steven Anderson, Nick Vannett, or RSJ. This is Ricky Seals Jr. or Jones, right? What's the guy's name?
Yeah,
Ricky Seals.
Ricky Seals.
Yeah.
So those three for tight end for Dynasty, who do you like? And then he'd like to find out a little bit your thoughts on biggest impact for rookie tight end.
I'll let you hit this one, Mike. Hit the Ricky Seals Jones, Nick Vannett, and Stephen Anderson was the first one?
Yeah, from Texans, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, I like Anderson the best. I think probably the best opportunity out of those three teams or three guys right there. I think, I really like everything about Texas this year because of Deshaun Watson, and I feel like everybody on the field gets that uptick. He's not going to be as good as he was last year, obviously. You don't just come back and do those same things. But if he's even half as good as he was last year, I think that's going to be a very productive team down there in Houston. And as far as rookie impact, now I don't really know too many tight ends that just come onto a team and be like a fantasy relevant player. I mean, it does happen, but it seems like to me in the tight end, even if you trade that position out, it seems to take a while for the tight end to develop into an organization, into a team strategy, and where they become actually valuable fantasy producers. What do you think?
I'm 100% with you. You know, we've only seen that with Gronk and Evan Ingram. And Evan Ingram was forced on him because Brandon Marshall got hurt, Sterling Shepard got hurt, Odell got hurt. Who else do they have? DeVaris King from Georgia? Yeah. Roger Lewis Jr.? Yeah. But I'm passing to Evan Ingram, who's a wide receiver in a tight end's body. I'd agree with you that Stephen Anderson is a very good bet. You know, they have C.J. Fedorowicz coming back from a concussion, I think. And I know at Clemson they ran two tight end sets. They were more of a spread type of game. So it all really depends. Stephen Anderson, I don't think they invested too much in him, you know, draft capital-wise. I think he's a very good player. And this dude is he's a very, I guess, long-limbed type of guy. He's 6'3", but his arms look longer than 6'3". Yeah, he's 25 years old. I'm sorry, C.J. Fedorowicz retired. Yeah, that's true. So this guy is the indefinite starter. And he played good at Cal. You know, at Cal, he played receiver, actually, for 2 years at Cal, amassing 600 yards 1 year with 5 touchdowns. And last year, he did okay, I think, as a tight end. You know, it'll probably be more. He's only been playing tight end since 2015, so that's a hard transition, you know, from a receiver to a tight end, kind of like the Evan Ingram. But my pick out of those three would be Nick Vannett, and doing so is because they like this guy. Organization-wise, they love this guy. It's just opportunity there. You know, Jimmy Graham's gone. Luke Wilson's gone. And I think that Nick Vannett has all of the opportunity in the world right now. I think he's number 81 right now, which I like. For some reason, I like tight ends with the number 81. That's random. That's a random little fact. And we also share the same birthday. You know, he's March 6th. You know, big time on March 6th athletes. Nick Vannett, Shaq, and me. Right. But this is a 6'6" tight end, and he's not a small dude. He's like I'm gonna run you over if you try to tackle me, and I'm gonna sit on you. He's 260 pounds, 6'6". That's a monster. In 2016, he played at Ohio State in college. In 2016, he was drafted to the Seahawks in round 3, and I think that they really, really like him there. Like, Pete Carroll is definite on being okay with Jimmy Graham leaving and being okay with Luke Wilson going. I just think Nick Vannett is a late guy that you could get for free. And you could probably have Stephen Anderson and Nick Vannett for free, I think.
Yeah.
So
I just don't like
shot.
I just don't like how Seattle uses the tight end. I mean, it's sporadic usage. Luke Wilson has like 2 great games a year. Jimmy Graham has like 4 great games a year. But they mostly just pass to the guy who's down the field the fastest, you know. I mean, so to me, the tight end really gets overlooked. And that's why I leaned Anderson, because I feel like with that scheme, I mean, I feel like there's going to be fantasy points to go around. So for me, it's just about the production.
Definitely. No, I agree with you. I agree. I mean, it is a shot in the dark. With the Texans, they also have Ryan Griffin there. I think he just signed a big deal with them. So I think he can definitely contribute, you know, to the Texans. Stephen Anderson, he's going to have to beat out Ryan Griffin. And Ryan Griffin's 6'6", 255. So maybe they'll use him more on blocking sets, you know, more of a blocking tight end. But I do think Stephen Anderson is a good late round sleeper along with Nick Vannett. If you want to just stream tight ends, which is a common strategy of all leagues, unless it's a tight end specific league where they afford more points to the tight ends, I get both. Right. In the late rounds. You know, if I have to choose one, I'm going Vannett, and Mike is going Anderson, and you got the same shot with both of them. So
I don't mind actually grabbing both. I actually like that strategy right there, and then just streaming matchups with both of those guys. I think I'd be perfectly content with that for a full season.
100% agree.
Was there any other questions on the Mixler there, Steve?
We're good on the Mixler. There was one, I don't know, I had to step out for a minute. I don't know if you guys got to N. Trotter's question on SleeperBot. Who are your top 3 wide receivers most likely to succeed?
Yeah, is that normal, like, you know, like any league, like, or is that Dynasty based? That would be my next question. I could touch on it from both.
Yeah, I guess so, because he didn't really give us any information. Just he asked, what are your top 3 wide receivers most likely to succeed this upcoming year? So I guess it's
so
a general football question.
Let's say redraft first.
Yeah, we could go in general, because Dynasty is basically is just prolonging the effects of the league. You got to do a redraft every league, kind of, you know, in a sense, you have the same players every league, so it's not like you're using a different set of players.
Right,
so you give your top 3, and I'll give mine. And why?
Okay, so for me, it's DeAndre Hopkins. I feel like his relationship is back with whoever. It doesn't matter. As long as it's not Brock Osweiler throwing him the ball, I think you're in pretty good shape. And I don't foresee Brock Osweiler throwing him the ball. So DeAndre Hopkins for me is my number 1. Devante Adams with the release of Jordy Nelson actually becomes my number 2, because Aaron Rodgers loves to air that ball out. He loves to throw it to Devante Adams. I think that I don't know how well he responds to double coverage, but I know he's seen enough of it, and he's been productive enough through it that I really like Devante Adams. And for 3, for me, and I know it's going to be crazy, but I really, really like Mike Evans next year. Oh. I think Mike Evans bounces back. I don't like the situation. I don't like his quarterback. I'm with you on Winston. I'm not really a big fan. He seems to always have a confused look on his face, like he's not sure what's going on at all times, and maybe that's just me that sees that. But for me, I feel like Mike Evans' talent will outshine. I feel like he's my number 3.
I definitely agree with you on 2 of those. I think definitely my top wide receiver is DeAndre Hopkins in all formats. He's my top dynasty pick. I even like him more than Todd Gurley, just because wide receivers last longer than running backs in the NFL. Antonio Brown is my number 2. Antonio Brown is I think he's Jerry Rice again. So I'm going to take that production if I can. And they have Juju, which will force the Steelers to get more opportunities on Antonio, because he's going to be single covered. You know, you can't double cover both Juju and Antonio. And I don't think they'll let Juju do what he did last year easily again. My 3rd is Devante Adams. I'm with you on that one. Consistently, Devante Adams is the wide receiver 12 that I've been seeing on lists, maybe a little bit lower too. But I think he has the ceiling of the third best wide receiver in all formats. I mean, this guy can go out there and who would be surprised if he goes for 1,113 touchdowns?
Right.
Nobody.
Yep. See, that to me, that's about kind of the stat line I see him at. And it's funny, I don't know why I blanked on Antonio Brown. I'd like to change my answer as well. Like, Antonio Brown's got to be in the top 3 conversation because he might be the number 1. I mean, that might be I can see the argument for him versus DeAndre Hopkins anyways. Like, he's Antonio Brown. The guy creates opportunities all over the field.
100%. And Devante Adams had 12 and 10 touchdowns, I think, the past 2 years, 900 yards the past 2 years. And whenever you're going to put him in that number 1 role, which he was in the number 1 role 2 years ago whenever Jordy was hurt. I think that was 3 years ago, right? One of these years Jordy got hurt.
I believe it was 2 years ago.
Jordy, he had 14 touchdowns, 2 seasons ago, being the number 1. Devante Adams is right there. He's approaching the touchdowns literally, like, so close. I can't even – I don't know.
Well, he's got the same kind of style, like, as DeAndre Hopkins. Like, it doesn't really matter who you throw into the quarterback. He's another Antonio Brown, too, where he creates his own opportunities. He gets open. He creates separation. It doesn't matter if you've got 2 guys on him or not. And he just catches the ball in every opportunity you give him. He doesn't drop it very much. And, I mean, the guy can really lay out there and make some great catches, but you don't have to rely on him, too, because he's got so much field awareness as well.
100%. And he's dedicated. We all saw that terrible hit that he got. Where his mouthpiece flew. I mean, he looked, God forbid, he looked like he died on the field. And then he came play the next week. Wait, Devante Adams is playing a week after getting knocked the hell out?
Right.
Yeah, he's playing the next week, and then he shows out. He proves that he can be a top receiver for a team. And I think that whenever you have the best quarterback in the game on the NFL field, as in Aaron Rodgers, you have to put that wide receiver among your top 3. Because Jordy was being drafted in the top 10, as the wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 for a little while.
Right.
So I think that if he develops that connection that Jordy had with Aaron Rodgers, it's game over. Game over. Get Devante Adams cheap while you can, because if you don't, you're screwed, buddy. You're screwed.
Yeah, next year you won't see him out of the first round. I guarantee it.
While we're on wide receivers, speaking of that, we're each given. He's my wide receiver 3. I'm assuming he's last year wide receiver 3 behind Brown as well. But the wide receiver 3 last year was actually Keenan Allen. What are your thoughts on Keenan Allen?
I like Keenan Allen a lot, but the things that kind of worry me about Keenan Allen is just the variety of weapons that Phillip Rivers has to throw to on that team. And, I mean, the use of Melvin Gordon, I mean, the strategy that the team has, all of these things kind of stack up. And, I mean, I know I was off on Keenan Allen last year, but I did say if he was healthy, he was going to finish as a wide receiver 1. And he stayed healthy. He looks dominant on the field. I just don't foresee where they're going to need him to be this predominant guy, right? Like, I mean, I think they're going to be in a situation a lot where they slow that game plan down. And so to me, I like Keenan Allen. I don't like his draft value because I just don't see him replicating last year's stats.
Right. I definitely agree with you. Bringing up last year's stats, good lead in with that, because I was about to hit it with 102 receptions. Okay, that's what he had. His yards were, I don't have the number in front of me. I read it yesterday or the day before. I think it was 1,393, so 1,393 yards and 6 touchdowns. He did this, 6 touchdowns. You say that's pretty good. But is it really that good? Because Keenan Allen had the second most targets in the end zone and in the 10. He had the second most targets of any wide receiver. So shouldn't that be higher? Shouldn't that Like, shouldn't
Right.
that be
You would
among
think,
the top
like, as a
touchdowns
guy
in the
who owned
NFL?
him in almost every league last year, yeah, I mean, he had a lot of games where he'd put up over 100 yards. Like, yes, awesome. But he just doesn't score touchdowns, and he should. Yeah, he should. He has the opportunity, and he's not making the best with the opportunity.
If you're getting the second best opportunity of any player in the end zone, in the 10-yard line, in the red zone, the money zone, why not lead the league or come at least top 3 in touchdowns? You're 6 touchdowns. That's ridiculous. Now, they also have Mike Williams emerging, too, which I think will eat into him big time, because Mike Williams had a down year last year, but they drafted him for a reason. He's their future. That's the only reason why they made that pick, because that pick didn't make sense at the time. They have Tyrell Williams, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. They have other people there, too.
Hunter Henry,
Hunter Henry.
You're not going to be force-feeding Antonio Gates the ball like you were back, like last year trying to get him that record. So, Hunter Henry, that guy is a very legitimate end zone threat. You're going to want to throw to that guy because he can catch it. He's a big time situation guy. And so for me, with the Antonio Gates out of the scene, you're going to see him get, like, he's one of my number 1 tight ends next year. He's actually in my top 5. So I really like Hunter Henry a lot next year, but you can't like them all. There's got to be, the production's got to go somewhere. And for me, the receiving situation in Los Angeles, wow, I caught myself finally, is just like it's like a 3-headed monster running back situation. It's great when your guy clicks, but you're going to be looking at 2-3 weeks of separation there in between these big games.
I 100% agree with you. They also have Travis Benjamin there, who they signed to a good deal in free agency 2 years ago. And I think that he's definitely going to be a factor, as long as they keep him there. I'm 90% sure he's still on the team. And I definitely think that he's going to tamper with Keenan Allen's production this year. I think that, Keenan Allen he's being drafted way too high based on one season. How many times have we seen somebody have an amazing season like this and then, boom, down the drain the next year? Look at, he came back from injury. Yeah, I'll give him that. Lacerated kidney, I think it was, which is a freak injury. And then Jordy Nelson, we were just talking about Jordy Nelson. He had that injury, and he came back and had a great year just like Keenan Allen. But what usually happens is, you got one good year, but then everything goes back to the same after. I think that Keenan Allen needs to be the wide receiver 10 at best drafted in all leagues. His ADP is 17th overall right now, and I don't see 9 wide receivers going in those first 17 picks. So he should be lower than 17th overall ADP. I'd say more in the 20s, and he's more of a late second round guy for me.
Yep, I completely agree with that. I would love to see him replicate it, but there's just so much talent around that team now. I like Phillip Rivers, I like Melvin Gordon, and I like Hunter Henry. And after that, I get really speculative about who I'm adding from that team.
Definitely. And, they might trade him. We can't look past trades. Yeah, he's their best wide receiver, but it's not out of the question that we haven't seen trades like this happen. This guy's injury history is long, and they just got his best season out of him in recent memory. So why not
to sell high?
Why not go with the future? Get somebody who you can build up more. Draft a wide receiver and trade Keenan Allen for a more specific need on the team. You have any thoughts on this, Steve?
Apparently, yes, I do. I like Keenan Allen question here. So let me say, would you rather, or would you rather game? Keenan Allen, for Dynasty. Gronk, let's throw Julio Jones, AJ Green getting a little bit older, Devonta Freeman, who else? Allen Robinson, maybe.
I'd definitely take him over Gronk, because I think Gronk might not even play this year, and I know that's Look, don't all of you Gronk heads don't come after me because I've already gotten a lot on this.
Gronk Nation.
So I definitely do have him over Gronk. Julio Jones, that's a toss-up because I don't think we've ever seen Julio's peak. I don't think Julio has shown us what he can really do yet. He's 29 years old, which he may play a little bit more. I think he's more of a Calvin Johnson type of thing. He's actually the same age as A.J. Green. And so A.J. Green and him would be in the same question. I think I would take Julio above him and then take A.J. Green above him as well, just because I think Keenan Allen's not that good. Devontae Freeman would be hard for me because I feel like if they do choose to go with Tevin Coleman, then Devontae Freeman might not have the same success with another team. You know what I'm saying? So as far as him, yeah, one name I'd like to throw in there that I'd take definitely above Keenan Allen, and I've seen Keenan Allen go above this guy a few times, is Michael Thomas. I think Michael Thomas is going to do big things in Drew Brees' last 2 years with the Saints. I think these are the end of an era coming, and I think Michael Thomas can potentially break records while Brees is still there. And then Allen Robinson was the last guy, correct?
Yeah. Well, you throw Devontae Adams in there. I mean, we just talked about him a lot, but you could put him in there too. But yeah, Allen Robinson, Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams is definitely above him for me. Devontae Adams is above Julio, Green. Devontae Adams has the potential. Not saying this will happen, but he has the potential to be a DeAndre Hopkins level of producer in fantasy based on touchdowns alone with Aaron Rodgers. Allen Robinson, man, to be honest with you, that's a tough one. I'd like to hear Mike's thoughts on this before I can accumulate all my thoughts on this, because that's a rough one.
Well, I don't have barely any disagreements for anything you said right there. Michael Thomas, I've never been big on Saints, but I can see where you are kind of leaning towards like the end of the career. You might see Brees get really comfortable with one guy. I could see that being Michael Thomas. Allen Robinson, same for me. I mean, I like his opportunity. I like Trubisky. I like the situation that he's in right now. I think the Bears are just kind of one of those teams that are one click away from being a very relevant team. I mean, their defense is very solid, and their offense just has kind of lacking those weapons. I think Allen Robinson could actually fit in and be this weapon. I just don't know if the talent level is there. I mean, yes, he's great, but I don't really feel like he's as good as everybody gives him credit for. He had that one really good season, and the guy can break out and have those big games, but consistent big games, I just don't see it. And I completely agree. I think Julio Jones has a great season next year. Devontae Freeman, I'm just not really too sold, even if let's say they keep them both.
I agree.
Yeah, if they keep them both, I still think that I like Tevin Coleman there better. I think they're starting to see that he's probably the more talented of the two, especially when you talk about getting all three downs in, So for me, I like Allen Robinson, but I just don't like his situation as much. And I just don't really – I feel like I've been duped as far as what his talent level is.
Can I ask 100%. Can I ask a question, Draft Genius?
Sure.
Thank you, sir. When you're dealing with the dynasty outlook for these guys, and I hear you guys are talking about with Aaron Rodgers, this guy, but in terms of a dynasty, if you're going to have him for a couple of years or multiple years on your fantasy team, you personally, how much do you, if you give me just a percentage idea, how much do you focus on the player and his skill set rather than the situation that he's in, which could change dramatically from an injury like we saw last year, or it could change because he gets traded or released or something like that, and now he's still on your fantasy team, but now Allen Robinson, you may have him. How much do you value, as far as where they are for a dynasty?
Allen Robinson, you said, right?
Well, any guy, any player, but I mean that would be a player where you would say, okay, well, the skill set, we think the skill set's there, but his situation's not very good. that could change them.
Right.
You know, so like when you're evaluating a player for Dynasty draft, how much, I don't want to say like how much percentage you put into their situation, but how much do you factor that in for the lifetime of a player in Dynasty?
Okay, so we could use Allen Robinson, and let's use I'm trying to think of somebody who got switched team. Let's use Dez.
Okay.
Dez and Allen Robinson, because he's switching teams, obviously. Everybody knows he's not going to the Cowboys. As sad as I am about that, because, hey, look, Dez did some great things with the Cowboys. But, so I would go, I don't know, man. It's basically a balance that you have to find. You know, you have to find that intermedium of both things combined. I think Allen Robinson has amazing – whenever I say amazing, I mean amazing skills. This guy can, you know, show you that he is a number one wide receiver, and he can be the next Alshon Jeffrey in a sense with the Bears, being Trubisky's top wide receiver. We already saw what he could do, so I already had him based on rankings last year, and he could be very well a different player, you know, going to a new system, a new coach, and a new quarterback, but I think he's out to prove himself, which determination is the biggest factor in an athlete. That's why I incorporated Dez into this as well. I think Dez will want to shine anywhere he goes and do everything in his power as long as he's healthy to shine like that. So I use more of opportunity and metrics and stuff whenever I'm dealing with rookies or first 3-year players. I.e. the 3-year breakout everybody talks about. I want to see why that was a thing, why that 3-year breakout was a thing. You know, you have some people who have done research like this. The people over at playerprofiler.com is great at this, metrics-wise. But based on talent, you know, getting back to the question, Allen Robinson has shown me talent where I have him ranked as my wide receiver 13 this year, and that's right behind T.Y. Hilton. I think that's my dynasty rankings, not my redraft rankings, sorry. But I also have Corey Davis at wide receiver 14, and I have Jarvis Landry at wide receiver 20. So you could see there's a very big question mark between the 15th and the 20th slots. So I do think Dez can be successful switching the team because he has that fire, and that really creates all the opportunity you need, is that fire, that burning desire to show that you're the best. Look at Juju last year. All he wanted was an opportunity. He kept saying that on Twitter and all kinds of stuff. He wanted an opportunity. He was 20 years old, and he showed that he can be one of the top receivers in the NFL. Allen Robinson goes to a new team, a new start. He gets to grow with the quarterback while getting back to while growing, you know, using the same wording, into what he was and growing even better. So I think that goes very hard into details on how I develop my dynasty projections and my dynasty rankings, more so on a combination of opportunity and skills. There's not really one or the other that I use, and it sounds corny, but I use the eye test a lot. Like going to Josh Allen, you know, there's a huge controversy on him, kind of hitting this one from the side, and not on topic, but I think he has potential to be the number one pick in the draft, and that's strictly from watching tape. You watch tape of his, and it looks like the number one quarterback. He looks better than Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Josh Rosen. Anybody you give me, it looks better than him on tape. I'll say you're wrong. I think Josh Allen has the best tape. And I think that Allen Robinson on tape has shown that he can get past all coverage. You know, he was on Jacksonville with Blake Bortles at quarterback. I think Mitch Trubisky is better than Blake Bortles. So, I mean, if you want to get into that conversation, we can. But I think Trubisky has all the tools to succeed now, and Allen Robinson is going to be huge for him. And that's based on his opportunity, but also his skill more so, because you put a great receiver in a bad system. We'll see if that holds to truth in Jarvis Landry this year with the Browns.
Yeah, you'll never catch me in too many situations where I'm going to argue with you about Blake Bortles being a better quarterback than anybody. Maybe Brock Osweiler, because I hate Brock Osweiler. I have to always make sure to insert that in every show. Brock Osweiler, I hate.
You can't hate on the Brock Lobster, man. That's the Brock Lobster.
Oh, dude, when he left Denver, the way he left Denver, like all cocky and then just did terrible after that. Oh. That still brings me joy.
He got into I lived in Houston when he came to Houston, and it was J.J. Watt was in all the local commercials for the supermarkets. And then as soon as Brock got there, he's in all the commercials. And I'm like, this guy hasn't thrown a football yet, and you're making him the face of H-E-B and the face of Kroger? Like, get out of here. Didn't last.
And then they're like, everything that he's decided to say was on sale for this week. The bottom definitely dropped out of that market for sure.
My gosh.
What are some potential landing spots for Dez, do you guys think? Like, for me, I think he's going to go with a cheap contract and go to Philadelphia.
Philadelphia would be hard for me, just because they have receivers. They don't really need a specific receiver. They have Alshon. I guess they could bring in a guy from the draft, but I think that they have a good set of receivers there. I would probably go with his comments leaving the Cowboys saying, "I'll see y'all twice a year." That was more of a vengeful comment, I think. I don't think the Giants want him and Odell on the same sideline because that's chaos.
Right.
They're not going to get along. That's chaos. Eagles, yeah, he'd help. I mean, he can't hurt them. But
you see him at the 49ers?
I mean, I don't know. I think that's possible. Their biggest need is that. Right now, I have him going to the Cardinals, the Ravens, Bills, and the Packers.
I'd say Cardinals would be my second choice, too.
And that's just based on team need.
Yeah.
And who's going to pay up for him? I just don't really think that this is a contract that you see Des Bryant take for money.
Yeah, I think he wants to go to a team in the NFC, definitely.
Yeah.
And I heard from Professor Hoos that LaShawn McCoy.
You're mixing them.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Prof. Yeah.
We got a lot of characters here.
That by me too.
And I do think that he'd be a good landing spot here. He said that LaShawn McCoy tweeted he wants Dez. I also saw Todd Gurley tweeted that he wants Dez too.
Todd Gurley, you've done got enough already this offseason. Will you relax?
I don't know what I would do. I don't know if he'd go to the Rams. What would I do? I don't know. I wouldn't want any piece of the pie except Gurley. I don't even know if I'd want Gurley. But I think he can do good things with the Bills. Any quarterback going into that situation, especially A.J. McCarron, who wants to prove himself, having Kelvin Benjamin and Dez would be good. It'd be very good. Dez wouldn't be the field stretcher. Kelvin Benjamin could be the field stretcher. And you'd have basically two wide receiver ones possibly on an offense. So that's definitely a landing spot that could be created for him. I think it's more of the contract because he said he definitely would have stayed with the Cowboys if they offered him a restructured contract. They didn't even offer it to him. They just said, "You're done." So I don't know. We are forgetting about the Redskins. Redskins are in the NFC, play the Cowboys twice a year. Who's their big-time receiver right now? Josh Doxson? Are you kidding me?
Right. Yeah, the Redskins could definitely be a landing spot. The only reason I picked the Eagles is because I think you would take that low contract for a shot at a championship.
Most definitely. And I think that the Redskins would offer him the most money, I guess, in need. Because they have Paul Richardson there, right?
Right.
They just signed Paul Richardson. They have Jamison Crowder, who's their number one stereotypically, and Josh Doxson, which Josh Doxson hasn't proven himself at all. Josh Doxson had a few good games, but somebody asked the other day, why would Dez go there whenever that would halt the progression of Josh Doctson. Josh Doctson doesn't have any progression. What are you talking about?
Right.
He didn't show anything last year.
Yeah, he has a good game every here and there, but yeah, he doesn't have.
He's a second-year player.
Production. Yep.
Josh Doctson can't learn how to be a big-bodied receiver from Jamison Crowder, from Paul Richardson, So I think Dez would improve the progression of Josh Doctson, give him somebody to learn behind over there, and Dez would get his wish. He could have the best contract with the Redskins, I feel, too. And Alex Smith, he needs a wide receiver there that he could count on. I think Dez can be relied on heavily. I think I'd like that relationship, too. I think Alex Smith and Dez Bryant would actually be a really good mix right there. Definitely, I agree with you. And the Cowboys, they played the toughest defensive backs in the league. That schedule is the toughest. Philadelphia's defensive backs, Washington's defensive backs, they're just super, super hard, to face off against. And I think the Cowboys have an easier set of defensive backs because they're second-year rookies over there. So I think that Dez would immediately get an upgrade in schedule-wise. It's hard to predict schedule, but facing the Cowboys twice a year would be better than facing Josh Norman and Rashad Breeland twice a year, which Rashad Breeland's a free agent, but they could definitely bring him back. Right.
I'm going to jump in here real quick, give the phone number one more time. Anybody listening wants to give us a call, ask a question, talk about rookie or dynasty with the draft genius John Michael and Dirty Jobs Mike right here on the Sleepwire Show. The number to call, 909-713-7030, 909-713-7030. Or if you want to chat with us on the Mixler app, you can do that, or you can follow us on Facebook. We made a Facebook group called the Sleepwire Fantasy Football Club. So you can get on Facebook, find that group, join the club, find us there, or on SleeperBot, the SleeperBot app, which is where we really hang out the most. Find the Sleepwire channel, subscribe to that, and you can reach out to us there just about any time of the day. We've been going for a pretty good 90 minutes here, guys. You got what's up next here?
Well, I'd like to touch on Josh Allen a little bit.
Yeah. All right.
He's definitely controversial, and I think that can definitely he can definitely be very controversial. Talking to whoever you want to talk to, whether it's somebody from Wyoming or whether it's somebody who's a diehard rookie guy and thinks that he's not the number one pick. What are your thoughts on him, Mike?
I'll tell you right now.
I gotta preface everything really fast with I'm wearing a UW hoodie and my UW hat right now.
I was gonna say you're talking with the guy with stars in his eyes right now for Josh Allen. So,
oh, dude, so bad. Like I'm 96 miles away from where that guy just created game after game. I mean, I know a lot of people say he's inconsistent, makes bad decisions. The good decisions that guy makes with the opportunities that he had, and when the Wyoming Cowboys had 9 guys that went to the NFL, Brian Hill on that team, dude, that team was dominant. They were really good. I mean, never at that same level as like the Alabama. I mean, you just do not get the supporting cast around you in Wyoming where it's like 30 below sometimes when you're playing football that you do in like, say, Florida, Georgia, all those areas where it's like 70 degrees every day and beautiful, and there's just 100 million things. But, man, I'm the biggest Josh Allen fan. So I get the controversy. I've seen him do a lot of things, but the good things that you can see him do, to me, just create the eye test, and he passes it every single time. He's just so decisive. He's so good, and he's got a killer arm to boot.
I agree. Steve, you have any thoughts on this before I get into it?
Oh, he disappears from time to time.
All right. Well, let's start it off at the metrics-wise. Josh Allen is 6'3", 230, which is great size, great frame for a quarterback. He's athletic, and he's actually more athletic than Carson Wentz. Don't hate me on that, but it's proven if you watch his tape, he's just not as polished as Wentz was. He has the best arm and the strongest arm in this draft, I think, and he can make all throws, even the crazy ones. But the knock on that is he slacks on the easy throws. He's almost too powerful, almost like the Hulk. And he overthrows the easy ones. And those are the ones that you think, well, he should definitely make. He can throw in the run, and he's a great runner. He's smart after the snap, good at identifying coverages and blitzes pre-snap. So he has a great football IQ, which draft people loved. All of these people the little draft nicks love people with football IQs of his sort. I think he has bad footwork. That's my knock on him. And I think that many NFL execs see that, and that's something that you can adjust and help. And I think he can be definitely a good quarterback wherever he lands. Now, if that's with the Browns at number 1, so be it. I've heard from multiple people that are in the NFL industry around the actual teams that think he's the best. Many NFL executives have said he is the best, and then the rest is just a smokescreen. The downplay on him is that teams are talking down on him to where they're hoping he falls later in the draft and they find some gold later in the draft in him. I know Mel Kiper agrees with my point of view, and so does Todd McShay. People say Sam Darnold's consensus number 1, and I don't think that's a fact because he struggled all year this year. The final game against Ohio State, he missed an open wide receiver for a touchdown that could have potentially won him the game, and he fumbled in the pocket. And, both of these led to a field goal and a pick six. So that's a big, big issue. And I think that Josh Allen, if he goes to a team like the Browns where they have a great supporting cast, he can be successful no matter what. And I also think that at 4, they're definitely going quarterback number 1 overall. Hugh Jackson said that. And at number 4, they could go Saquon Barkley and put a little Peyton Manning, Edgar, and James type of offense together. We saw that be successful for years for Peyton Manning with the Colts whenever he got drafted. So I think that that's a very big possibility, and Josh Allen is, he's a viable selection for the number 1 pick. Why not? You're really taking a shot in the dark at any of these guys. And they brought in a supporting cast in Cleveland like Jarvis and Carlos Hyde and linemen to where, why not? Why not take a shot on somebody who shows the most potential out of anybody in the class?
See, and the things I think he'd fit in better to Cleveland than, say, like Tyrod Taylor even. Because I just feel like, I like Tyrod Taylor. I really do. I think he's one of the better quarterbacks out there just because the way he can get things done with his feet and his arm. But I don't know. To me, it doesn't transist well with Cleveland, where I feel like you kind of want more of a take a few steps back pocket passer as opposed to the guy who you want scrambling everywhere every single play. That said, Tyrod Taylor can play pocket quarterback. I just feel like Josh Allen would be a better fit because he's a better pocket-aware quarterback. Yes, he can make throws on the run, but when he gets those feet set and he can bomb it out there, man, he's dead on accurate. And I completely agree with he needs to kind of tone it down a little bit on the shorter throws. The guy does look like he has a Superman arm on every single play, and he needs to figure out the touch, get that right touchdown to get touchdowns, I guess would be the right thing to say.
No, you're definitely right on that. I love Tyrod, and I think that he can bring a different, leadership to Allen. He could help him hone his movement skills, his mobility skills. It'll be tough no matter where Allen goes because all of these quarterbacks are tough. Nobody's going to be an instant starter. It don't make sense. Doesn't make sense at all. I don't think there's a Deshaun Watson in this draft. If there is, it's Lamar Jackson, he's my top quarterback out of all of the quarterbacks eligible for this draft, just because I think he's Michael Vick 2.0 and even better than Michael Vick. Michael Vick said it himself that he's better than him. So,
well, the guy's a touchdown machine. That's
definitely.
The guy just scores touchdowns. No, I'd say I like Lamar over probably everybody else besides Josh Allen. But then again, I'm sitting here in my UW hoodie with my UW hat on. So, yep. And I've always been a fan of the Craig Bull system ever since he was in North Dakota. So there's a lot of bias going out there with my Josh Allen.
Definitely. And I totally agree. Cleveland has a good and up-and-coming team. I'm gonna quiz you real quick. Who was the top 3 defenses against the run last year? If you had to pick 3, the 3 best defenses.
I think Tennessee was up there. This has been a while, so I might get them all wrong, but you can't make fun of me.
Okay.
Or you can. I don't care. Let me see. I want to say Pittsburgh was also there, and Denver kind of fell apart there at the end, so they're not there. The Saints would be my 3 guesses.
Okay.
Did I even get one right?
Number 1 was Cleveland.
Ooh.
Number 1 was Cleveland. Number 2 was Arizona, and number 3 was Denver. So you almost got Denver. But Tennessee is 4th. So Cleveland has a defense. And that's something that many teams don't have, is a defense. And all they got to do is work on stopping the pass, which Hugh Jackson knows. That's why he brought in 4 new defensive backs, moving Demarius Randall to his natural position of safety to kind of help Jabril Peppers, because that pick kind of looks lost right now. So if they upgrade their defensive backs, like they are, and it pans out in a success, Josh Allen is going to be okay, because he's going to have slower-paced games where the defense is stopping the other teams. How many close games have we seen the Browns make last year? There's a lot. So I do think that is a prime landing spot for him, and that's the case. We can talk on hours about Josh Allen, but that's all I have to say for now.
I could do a whole show just on Josh Allen and just me talking, but it would just there would never be one bad thing said about him. Every time somebody says something bad, although it's accurate. The guy, like I said, he does have decision-making problems. There are things that he does that aren't the best that you can do, but I see through those, and I see the hope and the glory that is Josh Allen coming out of Wyoming, the number 1 draft coming out of Wyoming. That only helps the state, so
definitely. If we don't have any more questions from listeners or any call-ins, Steve, I'm going to move on to rookies and Dynasty.
Yeah, should be good. Let me check the Mixler real quick, because that's pretty active. We do have one, actually. Dr. Detroit. Is it time to call it quits on Devante Parker? Doesn't seem like Goodwin is getting any love despite the great year and a returning quarterback. Any thoughts? We kind of hit on Parker a little bit earlier.
Yeah. One thing I didn't say is I love Ryan Tannehill. I love him. I think he gets a bad rap, and I think on any other team he would have been successful. He's just had a boatload of changes to the coaching system, whether it be, going back to Joe Philbin there. I think that's where he had Joe Philbin, and the offensive coordinator changes. It's kind of hard to adapt to new systems every single year. And I think Ryan Tannehill, he's definitely one of my sleepers, actually, this year. If you're going the no quarterback strategy and just getting one off of free agency, I say go Ryan Tannehill. And I think Ryan Tannehill can improve Devante Parker. But I'm not giving up on him personally. I know a lot of people are, which I'll take him on the cheap forever, because you show me a guy with that talent, and the cheaper I can get him, the better it is. But we're coming to the end. It's more towards the end or the beginning, because he's been too inconsistent, and a lot of people are losing faith. It's really your perspective on him and how much you view the risk-reward factor of fantasy. Whether he's worth the risk to you is up to you based on your team specifics. I'm not giving up on him, but most others are. So
but
it's really a toss-up.
That's just making him fall farther and farther in drafts, which makes that risk a little bit easier to stomach.
Right. Yeah, you can put somebody ahead of him pretty easily and be pretty content with possibly getting. I've always liked Miami's potential. I always have. They should be a good team on paper. They just never seem to translate that onto the actual football field until, you get these like every 5 or 6 games where they just explode and just destroy the other team. But if they could just put that together, and I really think getting rid of Ajayi will be a big step in that. I think he's kind of a curse on your team, even though, now the guy has a ring on his finger. But I don't really feel like he contributed much to that ring, more so still Carson Wentz. But I don't know. To me, I think Tannehill, I just feel like I've been burned by him so many times. I feel hard hopping on that train. But at the same time, I've always felt like that team has so much potential. So I've always been kind of hooked, especially once it gets around draft time. I'll find myself with a lot more Dolphins than I usually care for about midway through the season because of that hope and that expectation of what I foresee out of that quarterback.
Definitely. I agree. And it could definitely end up being a trade, situation where he gets traded to another team and has a better situation. Whether he gets traded to a quarterback like Brady or Breeze or even Stafford or Roethlisberger. Those, I'm not saying those are team fits, but quarterback-wise, that would be an upgrade, more of a bigger arm. You look at people like Cooks, and people are like, well, why did Cooks get traded? Cooks couldn't put it together with Brady. He put it together with Breeze, but he couldn't put it together with Brady. He had 26 passes thrown to him on third downs. You want to know how many he caught? 7. He was 7 for 26 on third downs with Tom Brady, one of the best third down converters out there. And I think the situation wasn't a fit for him. So that could be the same thing for Devante Parker. It might not be a fit in Miami for him. After all these years, that might be the one thing holding him back.
We got
So I hope that answered your question.
That I think it did. Dr. Detroit. He also wanted to know about Marquise Goodwin a little bit. He said he's not getting any love. I don't know if we've mentioned him a lot today, but any quick thoughts on Goodwin with returning Garoppolo?
I think the bigger return there is Pierre Garçon. I think he nailed it earlier when he said Garçon coming back. I mean, to me, that guy's going to be your one on that team. I like Goodwin. I think Goodwin actually is a fantastic back, and I think he'll actually see a little bit less coverage next year. So for me, he's actually up there. I think his draft price will probably be a bit too high for me, though, for what I expect out of him next season.
Yeah, we definitely touched on him a little bit, in the show at the beginning whenever I talked about Trent Taylor.
Oh, that must have been the time where I stepped out for a second.
Yeah, we talked about him a little bit. Right now I have him as my 53rd wide receiver, and coincidentally he's the 53rd ADP in Dynasty rankings. I think in redraft, let me see, I'll actually tell you where he's going right now. In redraft, he's going in the 10th round, the 10:05. I think that's fair value for him. That's about the 45th receiver picked. Garçon is going as the 30th receiver picked, so you could still get value in that offense if you want a chunk of that offense. Goodwin I don't know. He's had some good games in recent memory, but that's more recency biased. I don't think that's a definite on him becoming a definite playmaker. I mean, this guy, he's an Olympian from what I know. He can perform very, very good but just how much can that sustain? It's a one-trick pony. He's a fast, speedy guy, kind of like Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill doesn't make my top 15 wide receivers, not even my top 20, and that's because I think he's so easy to figure out. He's electric, yeah. Goodwin's electric just like that, but it gets to a point where if that's the only thing you can do and they learn how to stop it, what else are you going to do? So that's my point on Goodwin. I think Trent Taylor is a sleeper there, and very good candidate. Very good candidate. I just don't know if I'd waste a 10-round draft pick on him. Okay. Talking about Goodwin, right. Goodwin. The other receivers you could get in the 10th are like Cam Meredith, Corey Coleman, Sterling Shepard. Nelson Aguilar, D.D. Westbrook, Marquise Lee. I like a lot of those more than I like Goodwin. Even Will Fuller or Kelvin Benjamin, if they fall to the 10th, along with Randall Cobb, I'd probably take those more.
Yeah. Oh, all those names I think I'd look at before Goodwin, actually. We got George Reed. Actually, this is Gio from Breaking Him from the Grind podcast. Good friend of our show. Did the Blitz with us a few times last year. He's got a 12-team PPR. Can keep for 1 year. So Gurley in the second or Hopkins in the fourth. Which one do you like?
Ooh. I think I take Hopkins in the fourth and a shout out, what's up, Gio?
I'd go Gurley in the second, just because Gurley is just Gurley, and it's not Dynasty, right? It's redraft. He said.
Yeah, well, it's one year keeper, so you can keep for 1 year.
Yeah, I'd keep Gurley, and because you could hit more on wide receivers. You know, I don't think the production drop off will be that different between Gurley and Hopkins. That being said, dynasty-wise, I have Hopkins one slot over Gurley, and that's just because of livelihood of the position. You know, and running backs are more scarce, but they last less than a wide receiver that's elite. I would go Gurley in the second. I'm actually, my home keeper league, I picked Gurley in the second last year, and I'm keeping him. So I'm with you in that boat, man. That's what we're riding through. We're riding through the Gurley train. He's the fit for that offense. He's the centerpiece, and I don't think any amount of weapons they bring in is going to take away from him.
Yeah, I think he's like one of the more solid positions on the team. The weapons on that team just keep growing every day, and especially if you hear like Des Bryant, like good night to that whole entire offense. I mean, he'll be the guy I want off the team, but I mean, Cooper Kupp will still have big games. Robert Woods is still there. I mean, they're so weapon heavy, but I do really like. Yeah, that's tough, man. I think I do actually lean more Gurley here too, just because I think you're right. I think he just has the potential to have 300-yard, 2-touchdown games, and he does it when you need him to most, you know, towards the end of the season when they're starting to get things locked up. And, yeah, no, I got to go Gurley. I agree.
All right. He said he might call in later, but that's it for right now. That's all the questions I have. So, Draft Genius, I believe you wanted to get into rookies, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna go more towards the dynasty aspect of the show. You know, dynasty leagues consist of basically just you do a redraft, not a redraft, but a regular draft like you do in redrafts to start it off, and that's the startup portion of the league. And that's your NFL team. You're the GM in a sense forever, however long your league lasts. It's the fastest growing type of league there is out there. I think in the next 5 years it might take over redraft leagues. That might be the league that people start jumping into. The thing you want in Dynasty, just a little feature for everybody who stayed listening throughout the whole show with us. This is going to be in some upcoming product that we offer you listeners. But here's a sneak peek, is the 5 rules to a startup championship team. Rule number 1 is you want to know the format your league has. You don't learn what your league is usually, but if you do, it gives you an advantage if you know the scoring, the rules, and the waiver wire procedures more than everybody else. You could take advantage of that. Rule number 2 is to draft using ADP instead of a rankings list. There's one exception to this rule. You know, our rankings would be good to use, you know, in a draft. And ADP is more to give you an idea of where players will go, not where you should take them, of where they'll go, where the opponents will take them. Because ADP is average draft position. And if you're drafting with a group of guys, you know, you want to have an idea of who's going to go next, who's more likely to get picked next. And if you're using rankings, then that's is going to hold you down to, well, this guy is going to go right here no matter what. That's not true. Most people see people high up in their rankings last for rounds way fewer because some people are higher than others. Devante Adams is going to be a good example this year. I think he's a solid first-round pick. I've gotten him in the second in a draft today that I'm doing live right now during the show, and I've seen him go third and fourth round. So it's really up to you what you use, but ADP is the best guideline to where the other people are going to draft. The thing is, to use the wisdom of a crowd theory, which is ADP that has more inputs is way better than ADP you find on a random site. Find a site that updates its ADP based on mock drafts and stuff consistently, and that's going to be easy for you. That's the easiest tool to assess trades too during the season and off season. Rule number 3 is to grab extra picks in the first 5 rounds. This is the golden rule, and you have to trust me on this. All experienced players in a Dynasty League are going to go after picks if they're worth anything. Everybody's going to try to trade for picks. It's just how you trade for them. Personally, I go for top 60 picks. I want as many picks in the top 60. That's the ones I want. The top 60 players are all week in and week out starters. These are all starters for their teams. You have to be aware of sharks, which is, I guess, instead of describing a shark, I can describe you a move. Say I'm sitting at the 105 in a draft and somebody's the 111. Somebody says, hey, you want to swap picks and, move up? And you go, well, yeah, that'd sound cool. What am I going to have to offer, And they say, you're 405 and you're 6th round pick. Well, I'm not going to do that because I can get an elite guy still at 111. I can get an elite guy in the 4th round. I'm confident in that. And in the 6th round, I'll get somebody who will start for me week to week. So I'm going to keep those picks, not to just move up like that. You do want to move up in some situations. Say you're sitting there at 105 and at 103, Todd Gurley's still on the board. So you want to trade up and get him if you can, but don't offer too much. You got to use the ADP and a potential trade chart to help you move up. Rule number 4 is quick and simple. Know the value of future rookie picks. Future rookie picks are valuable. You just don't want to overvalue them. I keep bringing up a trade chart. If you find one that's good, we might be providing one soon for you. If that's something y'all are interested in, let us know and we'll make it happen. This will help you get future draft picks. They have a specific value, but people tend to overvalue them, which is easy to get duped on. The last rule is rule number 5, and it's called go young or get sprung. You don't want to get sprung in your draft. You don't want to pick a Kevin White and get caught in the dirt. That's a horrible thing to do. Whenever you join a Dynasty League, redrafters that are new to Dynasty focus on talent and not age or potential. When drafting Tom Brady in the 7th, that's a bad decision. You should go ahead and draft yourself Patrick Mahomes in the 3rd, and you could thank us later on that. That's my 5 rules for a Dynasty startup. That's just touching on the Dynasty part of the show, and we can have more rookie breakdowns for you later. That's it. That's all I got on the Dynasty rules.
Well, and I mean, we're going to have a show that's specifically Dynasty IDP, the kind of the areas that nobody else in the fantasy world seems to care about, but yet they're still the fastest growing types of fantasy because you're getting a lot of people that, they enjoy that 1 year, but it's kind of like UFC versus boxing. You've got you've got it all on one slate, and then you've got something that's a great product, fun to watch, fun to do, but one is nowhere near the other as far as satisfaction and expectation. So stay tuned. We'll let you all know exactly when that starts coming up and coming about when we get that show going, but it will be very soon, as well as Metal Mock Mondays. I'm very excited about that.
That's going to be fun,
Steve,
Professor Chris.
That's April 30th,
April
right?
30th, yeah, the first Monday after the NFL draft is complete. We'll know where all the rookies are going for the most part. We will do a Metal Mock Monday. That'll be the launch show. We're probably not going to start doing them every Monday until we get closer to the season, but it's kind of just a fun way to launch. We got Professor Chris, so she'll hopefully be there. Dirty Jobs, you going to be in?
Oh yeah,
cool.
You
man.
know I'm there.
That'll be fun. We'll try to take calls for that one, but it'll be our first big mock draft show where we'll do this same thing live. If you're listening now, subscribe to the Sleeper Wire channel on Mixler, and you'll get a notification when we do our metal show.
Absolutely. And don't forget the reason why we do this, guys. Get on GoFundMe /RobJR. Throw some money that guy's way. You know he needs it. You know we want him playing more fantasy. We need to get this guy out of the hospital and back into the lab. This guy's got so much he can bring to the table, and we all miss him. So make sure you get out there, do that. Draft Genius, dude. The stuff you talk about and the way you can talk about it and the way you bring it up and the way you prepare, just amazing, man. I'd love to welcome you once again to the Sleeper Wire crew. Where can they find you, bud?
Oh, thank y'all. Appreciate it. It's excellent to be a part of this wonderful crew, man. Great show. You can find me on Twitter at LA Draft Genius, on SleeperBot at LA Draft Genius, and then I'm going to have some content on the Sleeper Wire show since I'm on board now, and may have a possible website out there as well. But stay tuned for that info.
Okay, and you can find me at Dirty Jobs on the SleeperBot. You can find me at Dr. Kane21 on the Twitter. And basically, I'm on that Facebook chat all the time. I love interacting with everybody on there. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of great conversations, a lot of funny conversations going on, a lot of smack talk. And that group's getting bigger every day. Make sure you guys get out there, check it out. Make sure you also find us. You can get us at the Sleeper Wire Show on Facebook, on Twitter, on everything. I mean, Sleeper Wire, we're going to be everywhere. Steve, where they can find you at?
SW Steve on SleeperBot and at Toledo Radio on Twitter.
Hey, stay tuned. Stay tuned for the big things this offseason. Football is a year-round thing, so get ready.
Yeah, we're just getting started, guys. So make sure you get those follows. Make sure you stay in touch. Make sure you're always asking us questions. We're always ready to help. Guys, I think that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, listeners, for your quality time. We appreciate you all.
All right.
Absolutely.
And with that, we'll be back next time. We'll have a podcast come out next week. Metal Back Monday on the 30th. And I don't know, we'll probably do a few more of these live shows talking about rookies and Dynasty stuff throughout the offseason. So thank you all for tuning in. You've been listening to the Sleeper Wire Show. If your work league is a cakewalk and you're a 3-time champ in your friends and family league, why not grow a set and take on some real competition? The Sleeper Wire Pro-Am is the next big challenge for you so-called fantasy experts. The Pro-Am pits fantasy industry professionals like the Fantasy Football Fellas, Eat Sleep Fantasy Podcast, Marcus Grant from the NFL, and Roto expert Jake Seeley against you, the listener. Guaranteed to be one of the most fun, active, and competitive leagues you'll ever be in. Here's how to get into the Pro-Am. Visit sleeperwire.com/Pro-Am. Read about our cause and make a donation to our charity's GoFundMe to help our friend Rob overcome chronic Lyme disease. For every $10 denomination you donate, you'll get one entry into a raffle to become a listener manager. So, donate $30, get 3 chances. Just make sure to fill out the form on the webpage so we can keep track of your entries. We'll do the drawing closer to the season start and get you in a league that you will love against your favorite experts and fellow Sleeper Wire fans. Visit sleeperwire.com/Pro-Am today.